Have you ever wondered how our world would be like if there's no pollution?
So how would our world be like if we did not produce waste?
I think it would be impossible to have any kind of, world. Everything is waste, right? Everything in the natural world, right? It actually relies on waste, right? So I think your question was more about pollution, but kind of adapting what's taking place in the real world, right? Because nothing's wasted in the real world. And what we think is waste actually is natural environment.
In our real world, a lot of things are wasted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes, a lot of things are wasted in the real world. According to statistics, Taiwanese people use 2.7 plastic bags on average every day, compared to European countries that use about 198 plastic bags on average per year. Taiwanese people on average use 3.9 times more plastic bags than European countries. According to the EPA, Taiwanese people used 15.2 billion plastic bags in 2018, but only 1% of them were recycled, while more than 4.5 billion plastic bottles were thrown away in 2019.
What would the world look like without waste or pollution, as you said?
Yeah.
Just look at an environment where humans have not gone yet.
Yeah.
It will be like that. It will be a perfect cycle of photosynthesis, for example. You have the sunlight,
Symbiotic.
the rain comes,
Yeah.
it produces the plants die which feed the beetles die which feed these, and it turns the dirt which creates the trees, and everything is used, It's unfortunate it's the humans that have created pollution.
Yeah.
What would it look like without trash? Well, I guess it would be a world without humans.
But
Second question. So where does the waste we produce end up
Well,
depends.
yeah.
at? Like the waste that all humans create?
Well, it ends up in the water, in the air, and in the earth, which is basically everything we have right now.
Yeah. A lot of the waste that we create as humans in our consumer lives, that ends up directly in our environment and harming animals. It's not put anywhere. It just continues to cycle throughout the environment, whether it be
Whether
the
it's
ocean,
the air or
the air, right?
As I said, the waste that we produce could end up anywhere in the environment. First, let's talk about the ocean. The group has done research, which they found out that for every square kilometer of the seabed, it contains around 121,000 kilograms of trash in it. This research shows that plastics have been threatening our environment a lot in modern days. So let's talk about Taiwan for a bit more. So, if Taiwanese people produce so much waste on a daily basis, how do we usually handle those wastes? So let's talk about waste disposal methods here. First, let's talk about early Taiwan. Before 1983, waste management in Taiwan is just ridiculously terrible. Or maybe as people describe, about 25 years ago, Taiwan was considered as the island of trash, which was caused by the increase of waste production, and landfills back then weren't able to handle them. But now, in modern Taiwan, incineration is one of the most common ways to dispose waste in Taiwan, which basically means to burn them. This is because that in 1983, Taiwanese government planned a city waste treatment which mainly focuses on incinerating wastes, but could harm the environment because by incinerating it, those plastic particles will actually get released into the air and eventually fill up in our environment, which is also a reason why the Taiwanese government started to promote recycling in 2005, which made the rate of recycling went from 5.8% in 1998 to nearly 50% in 2017.
And a lot of times we think we have a good answer for that waste, but that answer actually creates another problem somewhere else, right? For example, incinerators. If we take all that plastic and we burn it, okay, that plastic itself has disappeared. Well, it hasn't disappeared, right? It's just been transubstantiated. It's just been transformed into another material. And that material is ash. Now, there still needs to be an answer for that. It's still highly toxic. You still have the same amount of material but now it's just in an ash form, right? So even though we think we have these answers for all of this waste, a lot of times that answer is actually producing another byproduct, another waste.
In order to discuss plastic wastes, we'll first have to know what plastics really are. In chemistry, plastics are synthetic materials. Let's use PET as an example. PET, or polyethylene terephthalate, the main kind of plastic that we use in our daily life. Also can be often found in plastic bottles and nearly impossible to get decomposed naturally. This is mostly because that these kinds of substances are not organic compounds, which means that they cannot get breakdown by most bacteria. When plastic products go into the ocean, they'll get shredded into pieces by water and tiles and eventually result into microplastics. Microplastics are very tiny plastic shreds that humans cannot see nor sensor, which is why we're not familiar with them. According to research, they point out that microplastics are in seafood that humans consume and even in human excreta. Because that research into microplastics started very recently, there are not yet enough data to say exactly how they are affecting humans' health.
Plastic doesn't go anywhere for about 500 years to 1,000 years, and it'll stay within our ecosystems where the biggest animal and the smallest animal will feed on that plastic, no matter what its size is. And then we're going to feed off that animal, right? So if the fish is eating the plastic, we eat the fish. Now also, plastic is in our water source right now. So when we pull up that water, it's actually contaminated.
They're basically finding it in everything now. I think there's nothing where they're not finding plastic. I think we've just started to study this though. I think this is something, microplastics is a topic of the last 5 years, 7 years, where we've started to research and look at where it is. Do we know the long-term effects? No.
So to take it more further, what do you think we have to do to change the current situation?
Education.
We need, to put the responsibility back on younger people and teach them what a disaster plastic has become, and train them to stop using less plastic, reduce the amount of plastic, and in fact finally stop with plastic. Because finally in the end what we need to do is stop using plastic. It's the only solution. We can come up with a lot of solutions what to do with the plastic we made already, but if we keep making it, we're never going to solve this problem. Yeah, so we got to teach the kids.
Absolutely.
And it's not just one answer that's going to fix it, right?
Sure.
Because plastic's here, it's not going to go anywhere, so we do need to recycle it, right? And it's kind of scary to see what's happening in the recycling globally right now. A lot of countries that were taking the plastic, they've decided not to. Meanwhile, petrochemical companies are expected to be making and producing more plastic. So without a recycling industry to rely on, we're going to be drowning in plastic, literally.
Okay, so you might be wondering what we should do in order to solve this problem. Let's first discuss what us as citizens can do. Well, of course, by doing recycle is one of the solutions, but it wouldn't be enough because by recycling, we're basically collecting the plastics that we've already produced. So what else can we do? Well, according to the NRDC and the Oceanic Society organization, they point out that in order to solve the problem of plastic waste pollution, people will have to reduce the amount of plastic that they produce. Also, citizens can actively participate in policy decision making, which involve both government and citizens. And also, industries will have to make changes as well. Well, it is true that plastic is a very cheap material to use for manufacturers. But according to statistics, 71% of waste we recycled in Taiwan are plastic wastes. So it's kind of hard to imagine those that we didn't recycle. So we have to put pressure on industries and make them realize that this is an issue that the public cares about.
Stop using plastic. Stop with your plastic bags. Stop with your plastic water bottles. Just stop. It's poisoning me, it's poisoning your kids, it's poisoning the fish, it's poisoning the world. Stop using plastic.
That is it for today. I'm your host, Gino. Let's make some changes. Peace.